What's going on, guys? This is Ryan here, and today I want to do a review of the Phantom 3 standard quadcopter. Zoom out, that's zooming in, zoom out. So I have the propellers on, just so you guys can have an idea of the size of it, what it looks like. Let's just do a few size comparisons to a can of tin of pop. That's about the size of it next to the quadcopter. And for those of you who have been following my videos, here is the Syma X8C for size comparison. Now, Syma X8C is a little bit smaller, and lower in terms of shorter in terms of the legs and whatnot. So it comes with a 2.7K camera, and it also has an anti-drop kit here and the back as well. It's just to prevent it from dropping. I don't have the battery plugged in right now because I'm not really using it. So there are propellers there that are color coded. You see silver props and black props. And what they do is there's knobs on the motors. These are brushless motors, and brushless motors are more effective and energy efficient. So this does come also with a 8GB memory card. SanDisk. It's an 8GB class 10 memory card, micro SD. Does get used up fairly quickly if you are constantly recording. However, I think if you record for a full flight at 720p, which some people would prefer 1080, but I usually record at 720, and then sometimes the occasional 1080p. The memory card would be enough to cover at least one to two flights of just fully recording. So having the gimbal is actually nice. It's a nice feature to have on this quadcopter because you can actually control camera, which way to look, and it is pretty stable when you shift it side to side. It's pretty stable. You can't really see too much movement unless if the winds are very strong. And when I say very strong, I mean over 25 miles per hour winds. Then you would probably be able to see the edges of the motors within your field of view of your camera. So the lens is a 94-degree field of view lens. So it's 94 degrees, so you'll see that. And it comes with red stickers on. I kept the stickers on just because I wanted to make a review for this, so you guys have an idea of what it looks like out of box, basically. Also, check out my unboxing video as well. It does have a compass and GPS inside already installed, although it does feel a little bit flimsy sometimes, with the battery. The plastic can feel like it will bend, so I wouldn't hold it too much on the corner like this. I would try to hold it more closer to the body instead if you are holding it and moving around with it. Let's go on to the battery. Battery is a 4480 milliamp hour, and it is at 15.2 volts. And it is a LiPo battery, so like all LiPos, be careful with them. Not that they will all explode or bloat, but there's a possibility. There is a smart device or chip included with the battery. Having that, it can actually discharge after a set number of days. I've set mine to discharge within 3 days after a full charge. So inside looks like this if you're interested. It's called the Intelligent Flight Battery. Reasons why I got this quadcopter is because, again, I purchased it for my graduation present, undergrad graduation present, and I was very interested in being able to capture aerial shots of sunsets, and if I ever travel somewhere that's not illegal to fly, I would like to be able to capture. So one of the things is I really hope to have another battery. Oh, how can I forget? So the battery on the Phantom Standard, you can probably, on average, I've had 22 minutes of flight time, which is better than the advanced or professional, which the advanced or professional versions, they usually hit the 18 to 20 minute mark, and then that would be critically low battery. Correct me if I'm wrong. One of the reasons why I also chose the standard was because, well, one, I'm a student, and then two, I don't have too much money, and then so I also tried to weigh the differences between the Phantom Standard and the professional, the Advanced, because the Advanced would be one up basically, and it would have a sonar camera system, positioning system, indoor positioning system, which will help it be able to differentiate what's on the floor and like patterns on the floor or carpet, wherever it may be indoors, and it'll be able to hover without the GPS signal. And I have done another video. If you'd like to check that out, I'll leave that in the descriptions. It basically it's an indoor flight test of this Phantom Standard, and just to see how it performs indoors without a strong GPS signal, and it does drift. It drifts towards one way or another. So it's not recommended for indoor flight. I wouldn't recommend indoor flight for either the standard the advanced or the professional. These quadcopters are mostly made for outdoor flight. Another reason why I purchased this over the advanced, which is the one up of this quadcopter Phantom 3 series, is because I didn't really need to fly out of sight over 1 kilometer range. In Canada, it's not legal to fly out of sight. And generally speaking, I don't think anyone should really fly out of sight, because if your quadcopter happens, or drone, happens to fall out of sight, you would have no idea where it landed and or crashed, and then it's hard to tell, and it'd be hard to find your quad back at the same time. So really, I fly within line of sight. And in terms of distance, it is I have flown it up to 200 meters, 205 meters out, and the highest I've gone is probably just 70 meters times 3, which is however many feet. 200 feet? Which is under the limitations of Canadian Transport Canada rules. And Transport Canada says the maximum altitude in Canada is 90 meters. So I'm pretty safe, I think. I keep well under the 90 meter mark. I will also mention that these are self-tightening propellers, which means you don't really need to do anything much other than just putting it on the screw and just spin it, and then it will self-tighten. And then like when it reaches the bottom, usually I would just tighten it a little bit more with my hands, just to make sure it doesn't come loose easily before flight. I would love to be able to use my quadcopter for good purposes, like parties, like Christmas parties or birthday parties, weddings. If I could use this for search and rescue, I would love to do that. Though I don't, like, from my experience, I have been able to fly out over 200 meters. So 205 meters is probably the max I've ever flown out, away from where I was standing. And anything over 150 meters is actually pretty far already. But it probably won't be significant enough for like a search and rescue. I find that it's very strong and durable. The highest wind I've flown in is 28 miles per hour wind, probably more than that. And it seems to be able to hold. However, I would not recommend flying anything over. If you are not experienced with flying RC quadcopters at all, you shouldn't fly anything over 20 miles per hour winds, especially if you're a beginner. So keep it to below 17 mile per hour wind, and then keep low to the ground, get a feel for how your Phantom or quadcopter reacts. And I'm still thinking of a way to make a video as to like basics of how to fly quadcopter, and like what I've been doing to like try to improve my flight. Overall, like this quadcopter is very good. I enjoy flying it. It's very sturdy. The video quality, like 2.7K compared to like the 4K Like I don't really ever need 4K super high quality video or photos. So I felt like 2.7K, although it's a weird number because it's not quite 3K or 4K, it's like 2.7. Really like 2K is already a lot. Or even like for me, my standards, like I think for the Phantom standard is even just 1080p is pretty good, I think. Well, in terms of videos, it is able to take really decent photos and videos as well. DJI, I'm actually really happy with my purchase. So again, I'm not like I haven't been sponsored by DJI to say good things purposely about it. However, I would say it is fairly reliable. I think I have tested it in terms of like flying it out and then just turning it off. So you have to fly it out like away from you more than 30 meters, so maybe 35 meters, and then I turned off the remote controller to simulate a lost connection or lost signal, and then see what would happen. So what happens is it actually stops, and then depending on your settings of what the quad should do when it loses signal, I set it to return to home. You can set it to just hover or like slowly land. I've set it to return to home, so it would stop when it loses signal, and then it will just reach the height, return to home height that you set it. Make sure when you set that, make it higher than any tree lines or building lines. And yeah, and then it would return to where your home point was. Now on to the controller, I think. So here's the controller. It's very similar. I think it's almost the same as the Phantom 2. Right? It's similar to Phantom 2, and here you have your gimbal control up, down, and you can also adjust in the app, DJI Go app, the speed of the gimbal, and then you have your mobile device. It holds up to like a 6-inch phone, probably iPhone 6s as well. Here's your antenna, and then here's your up down throttle, yaw, and then this is your control. Really just like a slight push, just like half a millimeter would already push, like move your quadcopter right away. You have the lanyard hook. I got this from a convention in Toronto for free, so it matches because it's DJI, and then I just hooked it on to the controller. You have a holder probably for your handle here, and then this is a 2600 milliamp hour LiPo battery as well. Charging times, the battery for the quadcopter charges approximately an hour and 20 minutes to a full charge, and then so from critical battery we're talking about. And for the remote controller, it takes approximately maybe 6 hours or so. But once it's fully charged, you won't have to charge it again for another maybe 5 or 6 flights before it will be like a yellow or red LED light telling you that you have to recharge the battery of the remote control. So you're pretty good. Like just one charge can give you at least a 5 good flights without any interference or weak battery, weak signal or whatever. In terms of feel, it's a nice feel, just like plastic. It doesn't feel cheap, so it's okay. Like, I mean, it's not bad. It doesn't feel like it's gonna break. It doesn't feel like it's like flimsy at all. Here you have your S1 and S2 buttons. S1, S2 buttons. And so when you flip it up, you have GPS. So whatever the wind speed is or whatever, the quad will try to hold its position when it's flipped up. And then when it's down, that's the ATTI mode. ATTI mode is basically free mode, free flying mode. And like if there's wind, it will go in the direction of the wind, and if you're not controlling it, it will just float towards, or like fly towards and drift towards the direction in which the wind is blowing. And then down below, if you flick that down, you can actually access the different functions of your quadcopter, of the Phantom. It has waypoint, it has point of interest, it has follow me, and it also has a, what's it called? Waypoint, follow me, point of interest. There was one more. I can't remember right now. But anyways, so I'll try and edit that into the video when I find out. So S2, I forget what these are for. I think it's like for resetting or calibrating the compass and stuff. I'll have to figure that out as well. Or if you know right away off the top of your head, please leave a comment below so I can just, I need help. One of the really interesting features is that with the Phantom 3 standard, or like even any Phantom series, you can record like almost like a movie. You're basically making your own aerial movie if you know how to like place the camera in the right places and everything at the right speed, and of course that will take some practice. And it's pretty cool. So point of interest is basically you hover. The app will tell you what to do. You hover up like above a point of interest, like pretend it's your house or something. And I'll post a video of that like later on in the future, where my house was being having its roof renovated or like repaired. So I flew it up just like 20 meters up, not even 30 meters, and then just had a point of interest, and then it would tell you to fly away from the point of interest after setting it, and then you can set the speed of how fast it goes around the point of interest, and then it would just circle around that point of interest that you set. There's also a follow me mode where you turn on your mobile device GPS, and then when you have enough GPS signals, it will also tell you in the app how many satellites are locked on to your quadcopter. And so then as long as your mobile device has GPS, and the app is connected to the quadcopter itself, then it would actually follow whoever has the camera, or whoever has the mobile device with the GPS. Now you have to, when you use the follow me mode, it will follow wherever you go, wherever the device, your GPS device is. You should also keep in mind that the camera and gimbal will not follow where you go though, but the quad itself will move physically, geographically. It will move, following you. So you have to control the height, and if any adjustments need to be made, that would be done on your controller. What comes next is waypoints. Waypoints might not seem very interesting to some people, but what it is basically for the Phantom standard, you have to set waypoints. You can set like I think up to 30 waypoints. And what that is basically, let's say you have a field. Let's say you want to get to point A, point B, point C, and in order to do that, you would fly, and you would set your points, point A, point B, point C, and then once that's set, you can actually click on the DJI Go app, and what that will do is it will send your quadcopter back to point A at that altitude. From what I tested, I think it does remember the altitude. For let's say point A you were 10 meters, and point B you were 5 meters, and then point C you were 25 meters. Then it would remember the altitudes in which you set it, and then it would just fly from point A, B, C like that, from A to B to C. And what that is used for is basically, once you have that set, you don't need to worry so much about piloting the quad itself. You can just focus on the camera, and this could be something that's interesting for a lot of people. Is you just focus on the camera and just record what you like, and it will go on its merry way, and you don't need to control so much about the like the orientation and whatnot, for the most part. An IOC, which is if I'm not mistaken, is basically it. You can set it so that whichever way the quadcopter was facing, let's say it was facing facing this way, right? Facing away from us, and then we like activated the IOC, and I'll have to put that in the description or in later on into the video as to like what IOC is stands for. Basically, so if it's like facing this way, the back is facing us, and it's facing forward. Let's say you happen to send it really far, and then like you don't know which way it is, and let's say it was like this, and you have IOC set. Then whenever you pull back on the directional stick, then it will go this way towards you. It will go towards you. However, if you don't have IOC set, and let's say you flew it out really far and the quad was like facing this way, it was actually facing this way, and then you pulled back, what would happen for without having IOC set is that it would actually go backwards. The quadcopter would go backwards. Instead of going towards you, it would go further away from you. So that IOC would be something that beginners, I still consider myself beginner. However, I don't really like the IOC setting because I've sort of practiced quite a bit with the other like SEMA X8C, X5C, my all my other quads that I've practiced with already. So I sort of have an idea of like which way orientation, like which way it's facing based on its movement. And that's what I would also encourage everyone who is a beginner as well to like learn like which way it's facing, orientation, like which way it is front facing, the front is facing based on the direction that it's moving, and that would help you a lot and improve a lot as a quadcopter or RC flyer. Alright, and we're back. So again, where we left off is basically I was talking about shell cracks. So I've flown the quad for a little bit over 2 months, actually like less than 2 months. I've only had approximately 20 flights, 17 to 20 flights. And so after the first 2 weeks, I noticed there was a shell crack, and the crack is it's like a hairline. It's very, very fine. Can't really see it too clearly, but it's there. And so what I noticed is before the crack was actually only up to, hold on, if I can show you. So this is a pen. So the crack only went up to the screw here. So it was under a centimeter. And then I have flown it and like continued to fly it because I purchased this quadcopter not really thinking of ever returning, like having chance to return it or like send it for repair. And so what happened now is actually the crack has sort of traced its way around, like past the screw and like almost to the halfway point. So halfway point, and then the halfway point would be basically where the top shell would be. So there's the bottom shell and the top shell. The bottom shell, so basically it inched its way around, and the crack has gotten bigger. And I have contacted DJI about this, and I think they said in Canada and US they cover all the shipping, sending in shipping. They used to make customers pay for the sending in shipping, I think. So I'll have to see what DJI actually says. So I'm still waiting for them to respond to me, just to be fair. So I'm letting you guys know that it is possible that you might experience shell cracks. And then so the first notice of a crack, like a small hairline crack, was about 2 weeks of flight. And then after maybe 2 more weeks of flight, so about a month's time, I noticed another crack on the other motor. And these are my front motors. These are my front 2 motors here. This one is smaller and it's like on a different motor screw. Don't know if you can, there you go. So there's that after maybe 4 weeks of flying. Now I will mention that I honestly have never crashed my quadcopter or dropped it or gave it any impact whatsoever. so I don't know what is causing the cracks. So I'll have to see what DJI actually says in terms of, or what they will actually do, if they will do anything at all in terms of repairing my quadcopter. And hopefully after the repair, if they repair it, they should cover this really. I've never dropped it or impacted it or anything. I've kept it very, very, very carefully, taken a really good care of it. Never dropped it, never crashed, never impacted or anything. No hard impacts ever. No drops, no crashes. And yeah, if I look at the back motors, the back motors seem to be just fine actually. Now the front motors, front facing motors is what has the cracks so far. And so I'm waiting for DJI to just respond, and hopefully there will be some kind of resolve that is satisfactory to me. And I hope DJI will cover all the shipping costs. So I will definitely keep you guys updated on that. And if you guys have any questions or comments about this quadcopter or this video at all, feel free to leave a comment below and just type away and just comment. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe and leave a comment below if you have any questions or just want to comment, say hi. Anything would be nice. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.